Science communication is a challenge. Scientists, on the whole, are not the best communicators. They're not trained to do that. Some of them are the types of personalities that like to go into laboratories. They like to do things in great depth, and they don't really want to be bothered with this sort of stuff. And as public personalities, some of them are totally dismal, and they should never be allowed near a television camera or a journalist. But others do have skills. Others are very good, and particularly some of the young people are extremely good in talking to their peer group about what they're doing and why it's exciting. So increasingly, particularly in Australia, as we try to educate the broader community about science and what's happening, try to get them from going down ridiculous paths, it's very good to use some of the young people and get them out there and get them trained in these communication areas. So I think science communication training is something that all our young PhD and medical graduates too, for that matter, should have. Of course, it's less important with medical people because they do have to work with the broader community. They have to talk to people, and if they're the sort of person who can't talk to people, then they become pathologists or psychiatrists or something like that. So communicating with people who have power is also an interesting challenge. Now, there is an educated public, and it is easier to communicate with them, and they can appreciate and evaluate clearly written documents. My personal estimate is that public, say in the United States or Australia or Britain and so forth, comprises less than 20% of the population, and maybe more like 10%. I think you can get a sense of it from the sort of surveys on what sort of television programs or television stations people watch. You can get an idea of how many people are actually going towards stuff with real content rather than simply entertainment. And that is difficult to get detailed information beyond that group. School children, the broader public and so forth, there is, again, an enormous challenge for us. There are professionals. The problem of the celebrity culture I've already mentioned. We have to educate the celebrities. Madonna, for instance, was going around lobbying, I think, the British Parliament on how practicing the techniques of the Kabbalah could neutralise ionising radiation. That's not a lot of sense, really. Many celebrities, including people like Tony Blair, believe in all sorts of weird things, homeopathy, water, and so forth. It is kind of depressing. The fact of the matter, though, is you can't deny reality, and it's going to catch up with you in some way. And it's science that deals with reality. We shouldn't be arrogant about that, but we have to get the message across. It's very interesting. Many things in science just happen to people, like the internet, like the mobile phone. These things are all based in science. But if you talk to people in the community, they don't necessarily relate them to science. It's technological development. They don't relate it to the sort of physics that's gone on to get us to this point. The Nobel people recognise it. I think maybe this year they've recognised some of that in their physics prize. But people don't relate that to science. Again, we need to get people to understand that link between these tremendous advances in science. Celebrity scientists, well, people like me, if you win a Nobel Prize, it does put you on the public stage to some extent, unless you're a professional science communicator, and some scientists go down that road and become professional science communicators. Baroness Susan Greenfield in Britain is a good example. But unless you do that, most scientists don't have much of a public voice. They find it very difficult to talk to journalists. It's a difficult two-way street. Celebrity scientists, some Nobel Prize winners take that up. They're regarded with some suspicion. It's not that easy. The Nobel Prize does put you into that that type of situation. You get into all sorts of situations. The year after I won the Nobel Prize, they made me the Australian of the Year, which was kind of a surprise because I was living in Memphis, Tennessee. You don't expect to be the Australian of the Year. There was an event where I was recognised on the floor of the Australian Parliament, and the next month I went back to Tennessee and I was recognised on the floor of the Tennessee Legislature, which is a part-time legislature mainly comprised of real estate dealers. And they read out an affirmation. I mean, I felt like Mel Gibson playing Davy Crockett. I got into all sorts of fights. I got into defending vaccination. Again, we were having this whole issue there. And we were also trying to get Australia to become a republic. India, of course, has set us a wonderful example in this, and we should follow your example. But a lot of people in Australia are still very loyal to the British Crown, and including the then Prime Minister, John Howard. So what this shows me is actually me vaccinating John Howard against the Republic. So the cartoonist is very clever, but in actual fact he's got it all wrong, because John Howard didn't need vaccinating against the Republic and single-handedly defeated the initiative to try and get a Republic. And you know, you don't win when you've got a Prime Minister as an enemy. Yeah, I think the challenges of working with the media, I could talk about that, but it's not going to be time to do it in detail. What interests broad audiences? I think they like practical demonstrations, they like video, they like things that are very visual. I think we connect. The best way to get science across to people, the complexities of science, is to use visual material. It's much easier to explain how infection works by using little videos with cartoons and animations than it is by trying to put it in words or trying to just talk about it. People are interested in useful advances. They're particularly interested in medical advances. They're interested in new inventions. There's a program on Australian television called The New Inventors. They present the inventions that just people out in the community have made. Some of them are very substantial inventions. One of them, for instance, is an invention that I can recall seeing as an invention of training your cat to use the toilet seat on a water closet. I think that's a useful invention if you've got a cat, I suppose. The other thing that people are very interested in is the ethical dimension of science. People are very interested in ethical issues. I've gone, talked to newspapers, and if they don't have a science reporter, they may send the religion reporter along. That seems kind of strange, but of course the religion guy is interested in ethics, and that can be actually quite a useful discussion, and that can lead people into other perceptions of science. As you know, I think there are a lot of good books to read about science. If we can get young people to read them, there's books written by scientists, books written about scientists. They're very readable. One of the challenges is to make scientists look like human beings and not like some sort of robots who spend their time in a lab and are really nerdy, in fact, which they may well be, but so what. And anyway. So there's been my little ramble. I don't know whether it's been very useful to you. It's been great to be here to help to launch this. I've never lit so many wicks in my whole life. That's very impressive. When I go into cathedrals, though I'm not very religious, I always light candles. I don't know why it is. It's very... and here I've had the chance to light 6 different ones, I think. And I did enjoy the smoke-filled room. For my own research, we're concentrating very hard on stopping bird flu from getting to Paris, as you can see, and we've also had to think a lot more about the pig more recently. So thank you very much.